What is going on, everybody? Jimmy James 59 here, and have an interesting video going to do for you here. This one is on doing the Saracen market abuse into a crossbow play. The interesting thing about this build is that you do play it like you're going for feudal age, but the idea here is we're going to use the Saracen market abuse, right? We're going to make the market, sell a lot of resources, and we're going to get up at a really good time still, but we're also going to have 2 archery ranges up. We're going to be able to produce units from them as well. I'm going to show you this one in a team game here. Part of the reason I'm doing it is for 2 reasons. One, Saracens, because of their team bonus where archers do +2 damage against buildings, have become, I think, something of a meta pick on Hideout. Every time I play Hideout, I feel like I'm always up against a Saracen opponent, and I'll admit I tend to use Saracens a lot on Hideout. So apparently I'm not the only one, and so this is a good strategy to know. It's also a good strategy to know with the Saracens in general. You can do this same basic build on an Arabia setting. It's a little bit tighter, but I think a map like Hideout is where you really tend to see it a lot nowadays. The second reason is that we also have on the other side of the map, on the opponent's team, we have another Saracen player, and something I want to do is contrast the approach that I took to his. Not saying it's necessarily a better approach, but I want to illustrate the power of being able to abuse the market with Saracens. So let's go ahead. We're going to jump into it. I am putting the build up right here, right now. So if you want to pause the video and see what's done, this particular build is a bit more, it's a little bit more temperamental. The more important thing is that you follow the principle of the build. And so as you can see, the principle of the build is to do really a normal 22 pop feudal time. Get your deer in. You don't technically need the deer, but it's going to make it a lot smoother. And then what you want to do is once you get 7 on gold, you're going to want to send villagers to wood. But the purpose actually is to sell that wood for gold that you will then use to buy food. So that's the idea, and now we're going to take a look at it. So I'm going to go ahead, take the build order off the screen, start the video. Okay, so this is a 2v2 at the 1300-ish level or so. I actually don't exactly remember the elo of our opponents, but I remember when we looked at it, we thought that they were both pretty good. So this should be a pretty representative gameplay. Team games are sometimes weird because you can run into a lot of mixed elo settings. And here we are. We're going to be luring in this deer. Going to go ahead and take it. If you're not doing this on a map like Hideout or Arena, you really probably should be. What I like to do is go ahead, lure these deer, and then just so there's minimal idle time, set the shift Q point so that way they'll go take the deer. So got to be looking at that. Now let's take a look at some of the other players in this game. We have my teammate El Trevador, right? We are Team Infinite Odyssey. I guess you can't see the IO in our team names, but that's okay. That's actually kind of unusual. I wonder why it doesn't have it in there. Well, anyways, that's a bit odd, but regardless, right? My teammate Trevor is playing as the Spanish, right? So very interesting. Meanwhile, in the green, the opponents, they're going with Franks and Saracens too. Very, very strong civs, actually. So that should be a good matchup for them. You can see it looks like our blue player, the other Saracen player, is letting his teammate know that we are here, right? So that I am in the red there. And then the blue, of course, we do have our fellow Saracen player. So pretty interesting matchup in these civilizations. Franks are often, I think, a really common hideout pick as well. So this is pretty interesting. Spanish, again, on these kind of closed maps where you see castle drops and that sort of thing, Spanish are also, I don't know if they're a meta pick for hideout, but you do see them an awful lot. So I'd be interested to know what in the comments section. What do you guys think of hideout and the meta? How do you play it? That sort of thing. It's an unusual map. I really like it in team games. I'm not sure how much I like it in 1v1s. I find it a little more annoying there, but in team games, I do think it's a really cool map and a nice alternative to Arena. So, looking at this build, right, we're playing this basically the same way you would play a straight archer build. There's really not that much difference. Now, something to keep in mind on hideout is that even though you have these palisade walls, palisade wall HP is not very strong. It's especially not very strong in feudal age. But not only that, but you tend to have some resources forward because none of these bases are all that big. So it's very easy for opponents to range your resources on hideout. So the walls on this map, I think, are a bit of a false sense of protection, right? A false sense of assurance. I think that hideout's an unusual map because sometimes people play fast castle, sometimes people play for feudal aggression. It's not a map like Arena where the dominant mode of play is to get to castle age very quickly. Sometimes you see some extended play in the feudal age even on hideout. So I can't remember if we're going to see that in this game, but we're going to be taking a look at it if we do. So as you all can see, right, we are well on our way. Everybody's pretty even this game. For some reason, our green player had a little bit of idle TC time. Don't know exactly what happened there, but our blue player is currently leading the way. 1 second of idle TC time, so running a very, very efficient economy, and my goodness, has his villagers all ready to go. And instead of luring the deer to the town center, right, our opponent here, right, so again, we have a clash of strategies. What I chose to do here is lure the deer to the town center and then scout the opponent later. Our opponent wanted to scout out early, right, flash the opponent where we were. And so again, this is just a little bit of difference in policy, but you can see that I have clicked up to the castle age, and hey, right, here we are, right, we are, looks like we may be the only one doing any kind of feudal play. So let's see how this goes. Remember, our plan is not to stay in feudal long, but our plan is to get some military production buildings out, and that way we have multiple production buildings on our way up. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we get there. Now we can see on a hideout, as this is something that's very common, right, because you can wall these areas off. And on hideout, one of the really tricky things, especially in a 1v1, but definitely in a team game, is knowing from what angle your opponent is going to attack, right? There's really, I mean, you know, there's door number 1 down in the south and there's door number 2 in the north. And so it is pretty common to see sections of the map get walled up. So that's something that we're looking at here. Meanwhile, right, we are getting this barracks down because what we want to do when we get to the next age, I'm going to go ahead and pause here, right, to give you a bit of a preview of what is coming, right? So we're going to go try and get the normal standard archer build set up, 2 ranges, blacksmith. In that process, get 7 on gold. Then we'll get the market up, and Saracens do have a cheaper market, and they get great prices at the market. I believe they only pay a 5% tax. So we're going to try and take advantage of the laissez-faire Saracen economy. And then we're going to, once we get 7 on gold, we're going to send villagers to wood, and we're going to sell our stone. We're going to sell wood so that way we can click up as fast as possible. Let's see what kind of timing we get. Okay, right, this first range is coming down. Right, and we're also getting double bit axe. So again, playing this standard archer build from the jump, right, we're just going to then use the market. Okay, and now you can see, right? Let me go to the resources here. Right, as you can see, okay, right, we're getting our gold miners set up. Very good. Right, and notice, right, we have double bid axe. So right now in the game, our farmers are actually working a lot faster. So we're getting that eco upgrade early here. Right, so we're gonna have faster producing lumberjacks from the jump. All right, and it looks like we are all in feudal age right now. And okay, so take a look at this, right? We have the range, we have the blacksmith, and the really cheap Saracen market. We've already got these queued up. So we can see down in the south, my teammate, El Trevador, right? He has already used the market a little bit. Our blue player, right, as well has used the market a bit. Okay, so take a look at this, right? He's going for a more typical fast castle play, right? He's doing what looks like a 27 pop fast castle time. Very normal, and he did it in a pretty quick time period, too. I'm very impressed at the build order here. And we're going, right, as you're going to see here in a moment, right, we have our 7 on gold, and now we're sending villagers to wood. All right, we're sending villagers to wood. We're getting our houses up, right? We have this market, and let's go. Selling stone, selling wood. We buy the food. As you can see, boom, now we're up. So, if we take a look at where we are, right, we're a little bit behind our blue player, but, right, if you take a look, we have 2 archery ranges. We're making archers. We're getting fletching. Our opponent only has the 1 range up. Right, so this is where we're starting to see some of the advantage, I think, of this approach. I'm not saying it would work every time, of course, but at least in this game, it's showing you that, hey, we're already cranking out our archers. We're already getting fletching. So if we had archers or troops come upon us, we would have some units ready to defend our walls, and we have fletching, and we're not going to be that far behind, right? Our opponent also, right, delayed loom, so we went for a very fast uptime, a very different approach than the one that we're taking in this game, right? So we are going more for an approach. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Obviously, I'm doing it. But for me, the reason I like this approach is I just think it is a little bit safer, right? I think it's safer because you can get more military. As you can see, the uptime is not that far behind. It looks like we're going to hit this thing around 16, right? Something in the early 16-minute mark, right? We have a little bit of idle TC time, but that is honestly just more on me not clicking vills as fast as I should because, you know, I'm just an imperfect player like that, right? So we have a 16:11 castle age time, and we have Bodkin arrow immediately, right? Our opponent on our side in the green, right, could be selling wood to buy food and things like that. Doesn't have the resources really to get it, right? So here we are. We have Bodkin coming in, right? Boom. Bodkin is in for us here, right? We're making archers, right? Little bit of TC idle time, right? It's not good, but honestly, probably worth it to go ahead and get our crossbowman upgrade if that's the reason we needed it. Probably not. This is looking like it's just me not being as diligent of a player, right? When you're out there, you can be a lot smarter about this sort of thing. And hey, look, we know there's crossbowmen here, but we click on them. We see they only have fletching. Now I want to go forward, right? So I say, hey, let's go forward. He only has fletching. We have Bodkin. We're on the move. Right, we are on the move, and we're pressing forward, folks. Right, so you can see, right, this build having that advantage in the military really enabled us to go ahead and get a big advantage here and take a fight that we can win. And now we have the better archer numbers, and we actually have the better quality archers because we do have Bodkin arrow in. Right, now you can see our opponent on our side is really trying to get walled up here, right? Wanting to keep us out, but this is not necessarily the best play. And you can see why, right? These are Saracen crossbows, right? These walls are going to go down pretty quickly. We're doing about 40 damage per shot. So holding out here is going to be very, very difficult. And we're just queuing up archers like mad. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to go for the third range, right? So we're going all in. We're really sinking our teeth into this. And already we've forced our opponent here to try and go for a skirmisher defense against us. Now, this is where you always want to have good communication with your teammate, as yeah, our opponent actually cancels that siege workshop. He knows we're going to go in, and right, we're signaling to the teammate, hey, we have a side open here. Let's go in. Let's attack together. Right now, alternatively, and this might have been a smarter thing, we could have made the range a bit more forward so we have at least one range that doesn't have that very long reinforcement distance. I think there really is something to that. On the other hand, if you start to lose a battle up here, then that range can become inaccessible. So it's really just how strict you want to play it, right? Meanwhile, we can see on the other side, it is all quiet on the Western Front. So this is where the battle's at. So this is where we're going to be keeping our focus. And you can see, right, our opponent really wants to get walled up here. But we have the numbers, right? We're producing from our ranges. We could be doing a better job making more villagers. Sometimes that's what happens when you're playing aggressively. But you know what? Having all the archers, that's really what we need here, and that's what we're going for. And so you can see, right, we're playing this very aggressively, going inside, trying to deny this castle, keeping it from getting up, right? Our player in the yellow, right? Now, this is an interesting moment, right? He didn't have even +1 armor, right? So it's going to be pretty tricky. Now, meanwhile, right, we're going to try to take a fight here, and we're going to whittle down these forces. But this is not the best scenario to be in, right? I mean, there's skirmishers hanging out, and what we're going to do is see if we can keep this castle from going up. We are going to lose a decent bit of this army, but, right, we're on 3 ranges, and so you can already see, right, we're just going to keep on making archers, though we won't deny this town center. And so the build, by the way, at this point, now we're just kind of reading the game and trying to figure out what's going on, right? I really want to make military here because I want to try and keep our advantage and see if we can do damage. And oftentimes with the archer player, archers are really more effective when they're in a mass. And so I want to keep that mass alive. I just lost some units. And so we're trying to keep that mass alive here. Okay, and so our teammate here, right, he is going to bring back some of these units. Okay, right. Again, this is a situation, if in a team game your opponents are ever making trash units, that usually means that you're actually in a pretty good situation, because you and your teammate should have a double gold composition. Typically in a 2v2, the play is archers and knights, or rather crossbows and knights, archers and scouts, that kind of thing. One melee unit that has mobility, and a ranged unit. Part of the reason it's typically the foot archer line has a lot to do with the cheapness and being able to mass them from earlier in the game. And we see, right, our opponents are trying to get this area walled up, trying to keep us out. But this is not something that's going to work even if the walls get up, because we're Saracens. Right? As the Saracen players here, you know, we're going to be able to get through those walls, and, you know, it's bye-bye. But unfortunately, right, the walls didn't even come up. Right, and as you can see, right, we have this big military here. Right, as we're just going to go ahead, right. I know that if our opponent can't make archers, right, we'll be able to keep this military lead. That's something I definitely want to see here. And there you have it. Now, meanwhile, right, you see our green player here has been making some knights, but that's fine, right? bring them on down, right? We'll fight together over here. And we're just going to keep moving forward. That's the plan. Now you can see, right? My partner here, my good teammate, is already on the way up to Imperial Age. Right? Getting his upgrades right now. But as you can see, right? The blue player here in this setting, he has had enough. I mean, he doesn't have any military. We have a ton of military taking a very, very aggressive approach here. And as you can see, it looks like it did a pretty good job of working. His villager count wasn't that bad, though. I really think that he probably could have continued at this point, as we also give the GG. Okay, this is interesting. So our clan tag is in there, but it's not here. Huh, that's interesting. Capture Age must have some way of reading the clan tags and removing them. Anyways, right? So look, very, very interesting here. Very interesting game. You can see he said he didn't understand his teammate why he resigned. That's pretty funny. I mean, I don't know, when you see it from this angle, I can kind of understand why his teammate resigned. You can see my partner in arms here has a 36 villager lead over his fellow on the other side. So, you know, you could argue whether it was an early GG, but it looked like the game would probably snowball out of control based on the military count, based on the villager count, because we could very easily probably walk over to this side. Looks like these villagers, that's probably where they were going to try to go, but I'm pretty sure that we get there in time. So anyways, that's not the point though. The outcome of the game is whatever. The point though is thinking about the build, right? So the advantage of playing it with the feudal age setup and then using the market abuse to go for the fast castle that way is that you get your military production buildings down and you can really turbo into creating archers and be able to take that aggressive gameplay right to your enemy. So that's the advantage of doing that. You can imagine that there are some, if you can't do damage with your archers, for instance, right, if you're going to run into trouble with that, obviously that can be a play that sets you back. So you want to be careful doing it and thinking about what the situation calls for. But if the situation calls for a quick, fast castle time, but also getting lots of archers out, this is not a bad way to approach it. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Try this one out in the ladder. See how you do. Big shout out to my teammate El Trevador and Infinite Odyssey. And also shout out to these guys who gave us a nice game. In Age of Empires 2, we appreciate the other side, whether we're on the winning team or whether we're on the losing team. This time we're on the winning team, but trust me, I can tell you over the past few days I've been on the losing side a lot. So just part of the way the game goes. But I'll see you guys out on the ladder. GG and take care.